It's really no secret that pregnancy is one of the most life-altering events for most women. It is probably the most vulnerable time that they will ever have in their entire life. Pregnancy takes such a hard toll on both your mental and physical well-being. Most people don't even realize the symptoms and the side effects that come from pregnancy until they are too far into the trenches to go back. Your body is changing more every single day in ways you've never imagined. You have hormones going through your body constantly, making you feel more unstable than you've probably ever felt before. And honestly, your to-do list is longer than you've ever thought it could be. And you have the least amount of energy as you've ever experienced. It is a lot. And a lot of expectant mothers say that it is more than they can even manage. And it's one of the most difficult times in their life. All of this on top of having to learn how to even be a parent. And this is not trying to say that dads don't experience a lot during pregnancy and postpartum, because they truly do. They go through just as many changes when it comes to the emotional side of becoming a parent. However, they don't have to deal with the physical demands on their body. And if we're being completely honest, mothers are typically the primary parent with newborns because of the demands that breastfeeding has. And because most newborns are extremely clingy to their mothers the first few weeks. So this means that they have the mental load of both healing from pregnancy, recovering from birth and labor, which is a whole other mess, and learning how to be a parent to a newborn that is a very high demand child. That is a ton to balance, and it's no wonder why some women just feel completely lost in everything and can't even figure out a way to provide for themselves. A lot of women truly do neglect themselves during postpartum because they can't balance the mental load of everything all at once. And if something has to give, usually it's going to be their mental health and their physical well-being. So a lot of women don't even get to take care of themselves, and yet men still seem to expect their pregnant wives, their freshly postpartum wives, they're still recovering from pregnant wives, to be their main caregiver as well. All of this can feel so extremely overwhelming. So it's no surprise why pregnancy and postpartum can be such a strain on a relationship. But I truly think that one of the big reasons that a lot of relationships struggle in postpartum is because men struggle to go from thinking about themselves to thinking about a family unit, whereas women have been conditioned their entire lives to think about the family unit. And I think that that goes all the way back to how we treat men when they are toddlers. A lot of the times we treat men like they're not going to have to take care of a baby one day. They don't need to play baby dolls. They don't need to play house. They don't need to learn how to be a good husband. They just need to find a wife. And there's a big difference because they're not looking to be partners. They're looking to be taken care of. During this period of a woman's life, you would really expect that the emotional load to be on the men to carry and not on the women in the relationship. But for some reason, whenever I go on social media consistently, time and time again, I see men using social media as the platform to vent on why their wife is failing them when they are just weeks postpartum. It truly leaves me in awe just how some men can really have the ability to watch their partners go through some of the lowest points in their lives, see them go through some probably really traumatic events, and sometimes risk their own life to have their child. And then they watch their partner struggle to take care of their child and figure out everything on their own. And yet they still can turn on to Facebook and complain about how their wife is not doing enough because they are failing to fulfill their marital duties weeks after having a baby. Anyone that's been on my TikTok has probably already seen this post, but I genuinely have seen so many just like this. And it's always left me wondering how men feel comfortable enough to just post this and think that their friends and family would side with them. This post reads, "My first is 8 weeks old. I can see why men cheat at this time. My wife completely ignored my existence for the first few weeks, and we had to have arguments just to get her to even acknowledge me, not to mention be intimate. This is the biggest challenge. Baby's easy." Sir, sir, genuinely that leaves me in shock because, first of all, why is every single part of that sentence focused on you and how it impacts your relationship and not on her healing, on her well-being, on how she is, or even how your child is? And secondly, I'm going to say if your 8-week-old child is easy, but your wife sounds like she's struggling, it's probably because you are not actually holding up your weight. There's a good chance that your wife really needs some help. And maybe if you actually helped out with the baby more, maybe she would be more emotionally available. But also, can we stop and talk about the fact that this is 8 weeks? 8 weeks, sir. My doctor didn't even give me a clearance yet to be intimate. So you expect your wife to go against probably her doctor's medical advice to please you. That is insane and so selfish, in my opinion. Genuinely, posts like this leave me just in awe. I truly cannot imagine how a man can watch his partner go through all of pregnancy and 8 weeks of postpartum and be mad at her already that she is not back to normal. Because the thing is, it's not like they say, oh, you shouldn't have relations because, oh, it's hard to figure it out when you have a newborn. No, they're saying it's because it's best for her health. Because no matter how you have the baby, once they're out of there, you have about a 13-inch wound in your uterus. You have a dinner plate size hole in your uterus that needs to heal from where the placenta was. So if you are getting any foreign substance in there or any leftover material in there, it can cause some serious infections. It is just wildly irresponsible to get mad at your partner for not being ready freshly postpartum. In my opinion, it's also kind of gross that we've conditioned women to think that they have to go against their own health. I see time and time again posts of people saying, hey, what do I do? I'm worried my husband's going to go astray and I'm only 3 weeks postpartum. It still hurts to walk. What am I supposed to do? Ma'am, call someone. Because that sounds like you're trapped. That sounds like a problem. That sounds scary for you. Like, if your partner can't go that long just for your own health, to me, that sounds like he doesn't actually care about your health and well-being. He cares about his needs only. It's just such a self-indulgent attitude that is just honestly pretty selfish. And I know it's not all men. Obviously, it's not all men. But it's enough to where it's a trend. When you go through social media and you scroll over and over again, I find these posts. Over and over again, I see women talking about how their husbands are pressuring them and saying that they might go look elsewhere if their wife doesn't give them something soon. And that's really sad that a woman should be focused on their child and their recovery really only in postpartum. Sure, they could be focused on their husband's adaptation and getting used to new fatherhood as well. But their main worries shouldn't even be remote. Like, it shouldn't even be on their radar to be worried about their intimate life yet. They shouldn't have to worry about their husbands going out and being unfaithful. They should be focused on taking care of their child and their family and their recovery. They shouldn't have to worry about what's going to happen if they don't put out 2 weeks postpartum. And before anyone thinks that I'm some man hater out here, I promise I don't have anything against most men. I just have a thing against the shitty ones. Like, I love men. I'm an ally. It must be hard to be one, I guess. I'm not sitting here trying to just harp on men. There are definitely good ones, and we will talk about the good ones. But I'm just wondering how we got here to the point where men feel comfortable to just post the craziest things, and women are somehow turned into the villain so often in these posts. What's sad to me is that consistently when you're scrolling, you will see women talking about their experiences postpartum, and it comes down to them trying to adapt to their new body, them trying to figure out how to feed and provide for their child, how to even care for their child. They're trying to figure out how to balance new motherhood alongside with their identity that they've lost along the way. But then you will scroll over to the dad's side, and you know what their primary complaints seem to be? My wife isn't paying attention to me the way she used to be. I have to cook now. She's not cleaning. She's not cooking. She's not even doing my laundry, man. Something's got to give. And I think that is so telling that men think of it as them losing their caregiver sometimes. And while the men's posts are annoying, what's really scary is the women's posts, because you will also see women begging for help. You will see clips of just men just emotionally berating their wife. You will see clips of women asking for tips on how to get out of a really toxic situation. You will just see clips of women venting and saying the really insensitive and horrible things their husband said to them when they were postpartum. You see some posts that just genuinely hurt your heart to see. And yet the men would probably spin it and say that this was their wife, turning it into them being the bad guy. You will see so many stories of women whose first taste of motherhood was completely tainted by words of abuse that were thrown at them by their own partners. And I honestly cannot understand men that would be willing to cheat on their partners while they are pregnant or postpartum, because that is the most vulnerable time in your partner's life, the time that they need you to step up and provide for them and to care for them, and probably one of the only times they're going to be very dependent on you. And you're going to stab them in the back in a way that they will never get over. That is earth-shattering. Like, that will change your whole perspective on how you view people after something like that. And some men do it without any care or regard for how it would impact their family. And this isn't even talking about the real life danger that women face during pregnancy and postpartum. Because yes, all of the health implications and all the life-threatening conditions that could occur during pregnancy and postpartum are scary. But you know what else is scary? Women are most likely to be harmed via DV or just completely unalived during the 10 months of pregnancy and the 18 months following. That is the most dangerous time in a woman's life. So this means that some women are fighting their deepest battles and their darkest demons while their partner is also trying to end them. And I don't understand how some men are willing to risk the safety of their partners. And even if they're not physically and intentionally doing that, if you're going out and cheating on your partner, you are risking their sexual, mental, and physical health. And if you're doing it while they're pregnant, you're also risking your child's sexual, physical health. And these men that are willing to risk their partner's sexual, mental, and physical health while they are home caring for their newborn. And then they go online and they vent and complain as if they had no other choice because their wife wasn't giving them what they needed. And they expect empathy. I'm sorry, I just cannot empathize with someone that cold and that cruel. Because in my opinion, this is the one time in your woman's life that she should not have to worry about you at all. And I know that this is going to sound so selfish, but it's because this should be the expectation. Not saying that this should be every case, but you should expect your wife to not be that involved for the first few weeks with you. You should expect her to be so focused on the baby and so drained and tired that she doesn't have anything left to give you. And your job as their partner is to give them more so that way they can fill their cup back up. Their focus is on the baby. Your focus is on them. And she shouldn't have to be worried about you and you stepping out. That should be the bare minimum, is to make sure she doesn't have to worry about whether you have clean clothes, whether you are feeding yourself, whether you are cleaning the house. Minimum, she shouldn't have to worry about that, because it is devastating the amount of times that I've been on social media and I see people posting about how, oh, well, I was bedridden for 2 weeks after my C-section. I go downstairs and every single dish in the house is dirty and there's mold growing in the sink because no one's touched the dishes since we went to the hospital. So now I'm 2 weeks postpartum and I have a giant biohazard to clean. Women should not have to worry about this postpartum. Do you want to know what I was worried about postpartum? I was worried about whether I was producing enough for my daughter to survive. I was worried about my own struggles with getting my health back in check. I was worried about my own medical complications and trying to stay safe for my daughter. I was worried about my daughter. Sure, I was worried about my husband, but I didn't have to be. Do you know why? Because my husband was by me every single second trying to make sure that I was okay. My husband was one of the good ones, and I will genuinely never forget that he did that for me. He was making sure that I had every meal prepped. Before we had my daughter, I had a ton of freezer meals, so that meant that he made sure every day one of those freezer meals was in our sink defrosting, and he made sure he cooked that for dinner. He was making sure that my breakfast was made, that my lunch was made, that my water was constantly refilled, and he made sure that nothing in our day-to-day life I had to worry about. He did all the cleaning, the laundry, everything. My only concern was making sure that our newborn was good and making sure that I was resting and healing and getting better. He took me to every single doctor's appointment, and he advocated for me when my doctors weren't listening. He took my daughter to every appointment with me, and he helped me make sure that I was getting everything I needed when it came to vitamins, when it came to water, when it came to food. He was the one that changed me and helped me shower when I physically couldn't move. He made sure that I felt human the first few days of postpartum when I couldn't even get out of bed. He organized everything with our family, so I didn't have to worry about schedules or drama or anything like that. He made sure everything went through him before it went to me. So that way, if there was any pushback, any beef, any questions with how to handle the baby, he already knew. I did not have to worry about anything that was not about my daughter or I. And I will never forget how he treated me when I was at my most vulnerable. Like, I am saying, it does not matter how low we get, how dirty he might do me one day in the future. There will always be a part of me that will remember how he treated me during my weakest and most vulnerable place. And I will always owe him at least the minimum respect for how he treated me then. And the thing is, because he was such a good partner to me, I was able to not only recover and be a better me, I was able to be a better mom for our daughter and a better partner and wife for him. And I think that every time we have a dark moment or every time we're fighting, I think back on those days. I think back on how he treated me and how he advocated for me, because that was his love. Because honestly, he didn't have to do any of that. He did all of that because he loved me. He wasn't getting anything out of it other than making sure that I was okay. That's it. That's pure love. And I don't think most people would ever forget how they were treated when they were postpartum, especially when they were treated badly. Because sure, men can change, but I genuinely believe that how they treat someone when they are at their lowest is an indication of how they feel about them. And sure, it is so easy to backtrack and be a better partner once your partner has more to give you, but they're still not going to forget how you treated them when they were at their complete lowest. I would never forget how my partner treated me when I was postpartum, because that was the love that he gave me when I was the least beneficial to him, when I was the most tired, when I was probably the most physically in pain, the most grumpy, when I was probably the most selfish and dependent, and let's be completely honest, the most emotionally unstable. And yet he chose to still be consistently the partner I needed. And I will remember that forever. But also remember, if he treats you horribly, don't forget that. And this is why I say who you're in a relationship with matters, but who you have a child with is the most important decision you will ever make in your life, because you can get divorced, you can break up, but you are stuck with your co-parent for better or for worse for the rest of your life. So make sure that you're keeping this in mind and keeping their character in mind when you're picking out a partner. But anyways, it was great talking to you guys. Let me know what you think down in the comments. My name is Claire. I'm going to start posting on the channel more. You can follow me on my TikTok here at LaCroix_goth, or follow me here and we'll see. I have a lot more coming up soon. Bye.